Fahim Yunus Qureshi Sahib will kindly talk to us about domestic harmony.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقلنا يا آدم اسكن أنت وزوجك الجنة وكلا منها رغدا حيث شئتما ولا تقربا هذه الشجرة فتكون من الظالمين. Thousands of years ago, in a land unknown to us, Allah the Almighty said to Adam, O Adam, dwell you and your wife in the garden and eat therefrom plentifully wherever you will, but approach not this tree, lest you will be wrongdoers. But Satan caused Hazrat Adam ﷺ to slip, and thereby we all know the history. We lost the Jannah, the paradise. Generations went by and the world moved on from a time when the daughter was being buried alive and man was being enslaved to what we now call Islam, our enlightenment. And in the process, somewhere, each one of us, each man became an Adam. Each woman became an Eve. In secular arenas, such discussions about domestic harmony are done in the context of men and women. I would submit that the next few minutes that I'll be talking to you, in my mind, I'm talking to thousands of Adams and thousands of Eves, because that is how Holy Quran defines us. What we fail to recognize that during thousands of years, Adam and Eve have evolved, and so has the elusive tree that was discussed in Holy Quran as a symbol. As children, I'll share with you, I always used to wonder. I would say, wouldn't it be nice that Hazrat Adam ﷺ had never gone close to the tree? We would never be kicked out of the paradise. We still all be living in the Jannah, in the paradise. And I would not have to go through the toil, labor, suffering and pain that we all go through in this life. When I started my research on this topic of domestic harmony, I realized pretty quickly that there is nothing that I can offer you today in terms of knowledge. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Al-Khamis Ayyadallah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz has delivered over a dozen sermons on this topic. At least 4 addresses have been given directly to United States Jamaat. When I looked at the previous Jalsa Salanas, I was astounded that every year for the past 5 years, in some form or shape, a speech has been delivered on this topic. I see Nasir Malik Sahib sitting there, khairukum li ahlihi. Malik Sahib, I can promise, you covered everything. There is nothing that I could find. And therefore my conclusion was that there is no knowledge gap. It is not a question of education, or at least not primarily a question of education. But then what it is? I spoke to a lot of Jamaat members as Sadr Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya. I spoke to a lot of my brothers. I can tell you dozens and dozens. And through my family, I spoke to a lot of couples to try to understand what's going on the other end. So what I will be discussing in the next few minutes with you is two basic questions. How did we get into this predicament? How did we get here? How is this topic even relevant to the Jamaat of Masih Maud alayhi salatu wassalam? Are we struggling with domestic harmony? Maybe we are. But what happened? And then, where do we go from here? See, it is very important for us to understand that whatever I discuss in the next few minutes may not apply to each and every one of you, particularly the blessed one among us who are living in that paradise. But it is not important whether it is affecting 5% or 10% or 50% of the community, because we are the flag bearers of Islam today as Ahmadiyya. We rightly so claim that we are the peacemakers of the world. And imagine the contradiction that if we are unable to make peace at home, can you believe that contradiction? So the second part will be, where do we go from here? And in that part, I want all of you to be my partners, because you can either be a part of the problem or you can be a part of the solution. Last point before we move on, in such discussions, in honest discussions, people get upset. Because Satan has not given up his job, he's still around with a lot of elusive trees. So he will tempt you, he will lower you, he will detract you. But my purpose here is not to make anyone sad or mad. My purpose really is to understand what the issues are, and if that requires us to swallow a bitter pill for the sake of peace at our home, I think we will. So how did we get into this predicament? The discussion has to be framed in a hadith of Azza Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that nothing pleases Satan more than a quarreling husband and wife. Nothing pleases Satan more. So how did it start? Let's pick an arbitrary point. A verse was just recited, Ar-Rijalu Qawwamuna 'ala an-Nisa. Men have been appointed as guardians over women. Adam understood the verse. But Satan came to Adam and said, no, this does not mean that you are the responsible guardian. This means you can be a tyrant. You can do anything you like. This is not a burden, this is power. This is not responsibility, this is privilege, this is your honor. You come home, you don't have to consider anything else. You can even throw your socks wherever you like. You don't have to worry about anything. You can talk to people in any way, and you can abuse them. I told you up front, my purpose is not to make you mad, but this has to be an honest discussion, my brothers, who I consider the Adams. Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa one day was walking in the street right after rain, and Imam Sahib saw a young boy jumping on these little rocks in the muddy streets, and Imam Sahib said, watch out, you will trip, you will fall down. The boy turned around and said, Imam Sahib, don't worry about me, I'm a young boy. But you are our Imam, you watch out. If you fell down, all of us will fall down who are following you. That is what your responsibility is at home. When we abused that privilege, Satan went to Eve. And Satan said, you don't have to take this whole thing, you can talk back. Why do you have to be obedient to him? Why do you have to listen to him? This is how I was talking about that elusive tree. And as children, I hope that Hazrat Adam would never have gone near it. This is how we all have committed the same thing. So Eve, under the same influence, felt that yes, I can get even. Forgetting that Holy Quran says, فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ. A virtuous woman, they're obedient, they guard the secrets of their husbands. That's the definition, words of Holy Quran. But Satan said, you don't have to worry about that. Then Satan comes back to Adam and says, why don't you can verbally abuse her. Under the word Qawwamun, you can inflict any hardship, you can inflict any pain, whether it's emotional, physical, or verbal, because you are the Qawwam. Forgetting, making Adam forget. Azza Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, a Muslim is someone from whose tongue and hands other Muslims are safe. My dear Adams, who is better deserving of that safety, that security, than the person who lives with us, than the person that we all went and requested that be my guest for the rest of our life? Who else is better deserving of that security, verbally and physically? But Satan made us forget that. When we started abusing verbally, the next step is what? Physical abuse. And unfortunately, some of us, some of the Adams, committed that sin. And there is no hiding. In fact, that bothers me, that really disturbs me when this does not get discussed. Because Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who understood, and Satan said, Holy Quran sanctions you, by the way, that yes, you can go beat your wife. Wrong. Holy Quran never sanctions any man to ever put his hand out of his anger just to vent his own anger. Wrong. Holy Quran never says. Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, do we understand Holy Quran better than Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, La tadribu ima'illah. See, don't hit these maid servants of Allah. One day, Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I want to give you an extreme example. I can tell you everything from the life of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that how he treated his neighbors, his fellow human beings, his family members. But let's go to an extreme, how he treated animals. One day Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam joined Hazrat Abdullah bin Jafar, and they went to a garden where, upon seeing Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there was a camel standing there. And the camel started making very moaning noises, and his eyes welled up with tears. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam stepped up to the camel and spent some time and then asked, who is the owner of this camel? A Medinite and Ansar Sahabi came forward, and Ahaz Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the animal has complained to me that you don't treat him. The words were, कि तुम इसके सलूक में तकवा से काम नहीं लेते. That you don't treat him with righteousness, that you treat him harsh and you put more load on him and keep him hungry. You should treat the animal better than this. Now try and add 1,000 degrees for the conversion from animal to human. Add another 10 degrees for that peripheral human, make him your neighbor. Add another 100 degrees, make him your cousin. Add another 50 degrees, make him your brother or sister, and then add another 100 degrees, and this is your spouse. What is the level of respect? What is the level of love and humility and kindness and compassion does that spouse deserves? So unfortunately, when we became physically abusive, Satan went back to Eve. And since Eve not always was in a condition to punch us back, Satan said you could be passive aggressive. Now you start keeping your secrets from him. You don't have to share everything with him. You don't have to do everything that pleases him. You can talk back. You don't have to treat his family well. And that is the behavior of passive aggression that then we all witnessed. Making Eve forget the golden principles that Hazrat Amma Jan, the blessed wife of promised Messiah, suggested, discussed with her daughter, Hazrat Nawab Mubaraka Begum Sahiba, at the time of her wedding. She gave her 4 advice. Never keep a secret from your husband. Even if he does not know, Allah will know. And the moment he comes to know, what will happen? You will lose your respect. Second piece of advice, never talk back to him when he's angry. Even if he is wrong, let him calm down, talk to him a couple of days later. Otherwise, in his anger, he's going to say something to you. What will happen? You will lose respect. Never ill-treat his family members. If you do that, you will lose his respect. Unfortunately, Satan made Eve forget that beautiful advice. This started a constant tussle, a constant anger, mistrust, where love was being depleted from that bank account every day. Adam forgot that Hazrat Masih Maud said, a man who stands up against a woman is not worthy of being called a man. And Eve forgot that Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that a woman will go to paradise if she dies in a condition that her husband was pleased with her. At this stage, this whole chaos made it to the relatives, to the best friends, to the streets, and everybody started talking about this family where something is going on. And everybody's saying to the other person, don't tell anybody else. You're the only one, by the way, who knows about it. So what happened? Hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna. Allah Ta'ala says in Holy Quran, they are a garment for you and you are a garment for them. My dear Adams, my Eves, we tore that garment apart under the spell of Satan. See, any advice that comes from wherever, with all due respect, whether that's the parents, whether they're friends, brothers, sisters, that encourages a couple to sever that relationship, in my humble opinion, is satanic advice. Is coming under the influence of Satan. Because what that advice will do is a couple will be debarred, will be kicked out of their beautiful paradise. So therefore, when this whole discussion goes outside the home, we get into that trouble. The relationship ends at this stage, whether in a divorce or in a long silence, where each person just waits for the right time. And at this stage, Adam and Eve both forget, particularly Adam, that Hazrat Masih Maud said, except indecency or vulgarity, all petulant behavior peculiar to women must be tolerated. And our children look up to us thinking, I wish my Adam, my father, had never gone close to that tree. My Eve, my mom, had never gone close to that tree. Fast forward this a few hundred years, because this probably has been happening for centuries. Those children grew up. Those little children who saw that abuse, who saw that passive aggression, whether they were daughters or sons, they grew up into Adams and Eves. And now, Satan, specifically at this stage, we just heard that men are kawan because they spend out of their wealth. So Satan went to Eve and something very peculiar happened. Satan said, look, it's all about money. If you start bringing home a paycheck, you don't have to listen to this guy, because that's all that's holding you back. And a sentence commonly thrown around in media is, you poor thing, when are you going to have a life of your own? As if, Nauzubillah min zalik, Ummahatul Mu'mineen did not have a life. As if our dear Hazrat Amma Jan did not have a life. So now, under the spell of Satan, a whole new challenge started, because working moms, being a homemaker in itself is 10 jobs. And now Eve, thirsty for that recognition, thirsty for that respect that she deserved from day one, thirsty for that security, she added one more job over those 10 jobs, and the phenomenon of working women came into being. At this stage, we all realize, if you are a working mom, who remembers the phone number to the pediatrician? Is that you or your husband? Who knows the size, the shoe size of your children? Is that you or your husband? Eve was unable to shed those 10 jobs because Adams, we are hardwired a certain way. So therefore, all that emotional energy and reserve that Allah had provided Eve was depleted. And now we are up in arms. We have no patience, no tolerance. We are living in a Walmart world where a marriage is sometimes something you purchase from a Walmart, as long as you have a receipt, you can return and get a full refund. But we fail to understand how we got here. So a quest for paradise on this earth, unfortunately, ended up into a battle for control. No one wants to follow the roles or rules mentioned in this book anymore. In the world filled with Oprah and Dr. Phil and stock markets and our own businesses, I don't know how much we all, as Adams and Eve, spend our time there as compared to here, where the guidance is. And our children are still wondering, I wish my father, my Adam, never went close to the tree. Now, if Adams are still wondering, how did we get here? We lost domestic harmony the day we raised a hand on an innocent woman out of our anger. We lost domestic harmony the day we felt being a homemaker is not a full-time job worthy of respect in its own. We lost domestic harmony the day we got too attached to our own gadgets and we stopped listening to the person sitting right next to us. We lost domestic harmony the day we became too big to apologize. And I think we lost domestic harmony the day we stopped paying heed to the voice of Imam-e-Waqt, Amirul Mu'mineen, that he had to give dozens of sermons. That's the day we lost domestic harmony. So someone will say, in this day and age now, where is that perfect model? Where can you show me someone who walked the walk, like Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa, and you had a financially independent woman? See, those are old times. How can we replicate that model now? Those were not old times. Let me take you back to something even better than that. The example of a perfect qawwam, even better than Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And who did he marry? Ummahatul Mu'mineen, Hazrat Khadijatul Kubra, who I think it's fair to say was the first female CEO of Islam. She was a working woman. She was the breadwinner. She was a wealthy woman. So instead of going into further details, I will just tell you what was their testimony for each other. What language they used to describe each other. At the time of first revelation, when Ahmad was trembling, he came to Hazrat Khadija, who responded, "Surely Allah will never humiliate you. You carry out the obligations of your relatives. You are truthful. You relieve people's burden. You possess high moral qualities which have become rare, and you honor your guests. So you do help the distressed." This was the testimony of Hazrat Khadija radhiyallahu ta'ala anha. This is the definition of qawwam. After 25 years of that paradise, when Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radhiyallahu ta'ala anha one day asked Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "O Prophet of Allah, why do you still think of that old lady when you have younger wives?" This is what is the testimony of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the first female CEO, Ummahatul Mu'mineen. Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Oh Aisha, you have no idea how good Khadija was to me. She believed in the truthfulness of my claim when others rejected me. She became my best companion and helper when others abandoned me." That was the role. She was in a very strong position. If anyone could have manipulated, controlled a husband, you could not be in a better position. She did not marry a prophet for whom heavens and earth were created. She married a 25-year-old orphan. And this is the testimony. So my brothers, my Adams, and my dear sisters, our Eves, it does not matter. See, we all carry an image. I can come here, give a speech, and create an image. And you may think this is how Sadr Sahib is. But it does not matter what my image is at my workplace. It does not matter what my image is in the Jamaat, unless that image matches with what my image is at my home. See, that is the testimony that matters the most. Ahmad was truthful outside the home and inside the home. He was caring and loving outside the home and inside the home. It doesn't work any other way. And I would submit that if there is a contradiction, I would toss everything else and just pick the one reference letter that is given to us by our spouse. That must be closest to reality. Unfortunately, we are trying to have it both ways. Last night, I took my son to a Burger King around 10 p.m. and he asked me, I don't know why he did, he rarely asks me such questions. He said, "Baba, what is the tagline for Burger King? What's their slogan?" I had no clue. You know what their slogan is? Anyone, just raise your hand. I'm not going to pick on you. Anyone knows the slogan for Burger King? Good. Have it your way. That's what Burger King says. See, at that stage it starts getting engraved in our mind. You can have it your way. But there is only one way. You have it your way or you have it Allah's way. See, there is no other way to cut it. I cannot just digest this dichotomy. We are trying to keep the world green. We are talking about environment and our own paradise, our own Jannat. is suffering, is not green. We are worried about Israeli and Palestinian conflict, and we say why these two parties can't come to the table, and a husband and wife can't come to the table. We are worried about the collateral damage of children in Iraq. Not to say it is all very important. All those move my heart. But who is going to take care of the collateral damage of all these broken relationships? Our own children. There is a dichotomy. And as Adams and Eves, we must explain that. And if one party has to do that explanation, it has to be Adam. See, we are the Qawam. It's not a power struggle. It's the burden. So where do we go from here? We have two choices. Choice one, we play by the rules and roles given to us by the Western world. We keep following the stocks, we keep watching Oprah and Dr. Phil. And yes, we will be very successful. Your stocks will go up, you will have a new car, you will have a nice iPod or a BlackBerry, you will have your own house, you will have your own computer, but we may not have a shoulder to cry on. That road is going to take us into isolation. And I'm not just making it up. Can you believe that 51% of women in America are living alone? More women live by themselves than either married or in a relationship where they have children at home. 51%, 47% of men live alone. In Manhattan, 48% of the households have only one person living in them. Is that what you call a Jannat? Next time you land into New York and you look at those rooftops, you can say one out of these two homes has only one person occupying the home. Is that what the definition of a Jannat is? Where you go in day in and day out with a key and you open the door and the room is the way you left it? Is that what a Jannat is? I don't see that in Holy Quran. There is no concept of Jannat without companionship. So that is one choice we can make. We can continue to go down that road of Burger King and have it our way. And as my brain tells me, my heart wants to believe, no, it will never happen. My brain tells me that there are some who will continue to follow that road, unfortunately, no matter what we do. Choice number two is that we follow the rules and roles offered to us by Holy Quran. We love our spouses for the sake of Allah, not to score any points. We forgive them so we be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We tolerate them as Allah tolerates us. We sacrifice so we can get more reward. We live a life of interdependence rather than independence. And by the way, interdependence is a higher trait. We live a life of interdependence, and at the end of the day, our children look up to us and say, thank God, my dad, my mom never went close to that tree. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam said, in order to get this paradise, you must tread through, you must walk through a hell first. It's not going to be easy. So my advice to my dear brothers, my dear sisters, our Adams and Eve, please choose your paradise over Satan. Please choose your paradise over your ego or anything else that may look beautiful to us. At this stage, Satan may be going out there saying, who made this guy an expert on this? What credibility he has? Why is he lecturing you? Of all the people, I find myself the most unworthy to be standing here and talking to you about it. I'm not here as a testimony of any superiority over any one of you. In fact, quite the contrary. I'm a testimony to loving parents who tolerated my temper tantrums as a teenager to maintain domestic harmony. I'm a testament to my brothers and sisters who put up with my mood swings when I was younger to maintain domestic harmony. I'm standing here as a testament to my wife who has sacrificed more than what can I ever imagine for our domestic harmony. So I don't stand here, my dear brothers and sisters, as an expert. I'm not trying to lecture you. I was called by the Nizam and somebody had to do it. One last ditch effort by Satan at this stage is going to be why? Why are you choosing this road of sacrifice? And why are not you going to Burger King and have it your way? See, Allah Ta'ala says in Holy Quran, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. But for him who fears to stand before his Lord, there are two gardens. It's not a promise of one garden we are talking about. Yes, we tread through a hell to establish a garden, establish a paradise in this earth, but there is another paradise. There is an afterlife we all worry about. And Allah Ta'ala says, if you don't get a garden here, there is no chance of that garden. They're both related. So today, I ask you, see, after these speeches, it is very common, please, after these speeches, it's very common for people to analyze it on the street. Was it a good speech? Was it a bad speech? Did the speaker do a good job or a bad job? Hazrat Muslim Maud Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu said, that is the wrong way to look at it. It's not about the speaker. It's not about the speech. It is about the message. What did we gain out of the message? So I ask you, please, when you leave this Jalsa today, have a candid conversation with your Eve, with your Adam, and ask them to rate you on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being someone who's a perfect Eve, Hazrat Khadija Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anha. 10 being someone who's walking the walk, who's trying to be Imam Abu Hanifa, and see where they rank you. See how many in this room don't have a personal computer in your homes? Raise your hand. Almost everyone. How frequently you do a virus scan on it? The last time I did it, it took me 2 hours. When was the last time we did a spiritual virus scan of our relationship? See, viruses don't always come from negative sites. They can come from emails from your own friends and relatives. So when was the last time you checked that your friends, relatives, family have not infiltrated a virus in your relationship? Go ask your spouse. And then whatever number they give you, you accept it. Then you ask them, what can I do more? Where can I go better? Where I can do better than before? And then, of course, will come the hardest part, which is an apology. The hardest part is going to be someone to kill his ego and say, for my children, for my Jannat, yes, I'm not going to look at it whether I'm right or wrong, but I'm going to kill my ego. As Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam says, Momin ka ye kaam hai ki apni nafsaniyat ko kuchal de. See, that's the job of a believer, to crush his ego. It's not admittance of guilt, as Satan will try to convince you. It's leadership. It's being a kawam. And that is how we create a paradise in this earth. That makes us the higher of a paradise in the earth, in the second world. And at this stage, I will just say in summary, we are all Adams and Eves in our household. And we all have a paradise to build. It's not given to us. It's not just handed over to us. We have to go through a hell to make that paradise. And there are children. Whether they're your children, your nephews, nieces, they're looking up to you, thinking, saying, I wish my Baba does not go near that tree. I wish my mother does not go near that tree. And see, we can only have it one way. We can even have it the Burger King way, or the roles are defined here. Whether we like it or not, the roles are defined here, and that's a choice. I'm very humbly giving you here today because there is no other way. We can try to, see, there are many people who write books. I am never offended by these people who write feministic books and against family and against marriage. But the problem I don't have with them is that they're not hoping for a paradise in the world hereafter. I don't see a contradiction. They believe in this world, they talk about it, that's okay for them. But you and I believe in a world that is yet to come. And we must work for that. Our image at our workplace, at our Jamaat, does not mean anything if it does not match the image, it does not match the reference letter that is given to us by our spouse. And this is the time for that discussion to start. If this discussion remains within Adam's and within Eve's, it's not going to work. It's nobody else's business. We all have a little individual paradise. Why is that paradise important? As I said in the beginning, we are the peacemakers of the world. That is the message of Imam-e-Waqt. That is the message of Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. If we did not do it, nobody else will. If this domestic harmony didn't happen in Ahmadiyya, you take my word for it. The world is heading towards a trajectory where they will not have a better model than Ahmadiyyat. May Allah Ta'ala make us all a model society for the world. May Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis never have to give us another sermon on this topic again. And may we all be the heirs of a paradise in this world and the hereafter. I went a little over my time and I appreciate your kindness for that. Jazakumullah.
Jazakallah.